Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of League Chat with the Stat. 4 weeks in already to the brand new NRL season. And let me tell you, I feel like I've had to wait so long for the NRL season to start. And now it's crazy that we're already 4 weeks in. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on a brand new episode this week. Look, we're going to go through everything from round 4. But first, you know what to do. You know how we start all this. We discuss the NRL ladder. Coming in at first, undefeated still, are the Penrith Panthers on 8 points. You've got the Storm, Eels, and Sharks to round up the top 4 on 6 points. And then you got the next 4 teams topping out the top 8 there, which is the Cowboys, Roosters, Warriors, and the Knights, who are all on 4 points. Continuing on 4 points are the Titans, the Sea Eagles, the Broncos, and the Raiders, with the 2 wins. And then you've got the next 3 teams with the 1 win, which is the Rabbitohs, the Bulldogs, and the Dragons. And you've got the Tigers, who are still yet to win this season. Like I said, I appreciate you guys joining me on a brand new week. Look, let's get right into it. Let's discuss everything round 4. Titans 8, defeating the Tigers 6. Just when I thought that the Tigers couldn't play a more shocking game than the one against the Warriors, they come out with this brand spanker. Now, I could not believe that they were involved in, again, another one of the worst games of the season. And they just seem to have backed it up. It was such a poor performance from both sides. There wasn't at any point in time did I see that or think that both sides actually played very well. Look, they did show a bit of resilience in defense at different stages in the game. You know, the Titans had a lot of ball and so did the Tigers. You know, they had a few tries disallowed as well. But look, when it comes down to the last minute of it all the Tigers had to do after they kicked that goal was to catch that ball, ground it, knowing that they've got one more set to defend, and they've defended for 79 minutes. I mean, what's another minute? But it was, look, I'll give it to the Titans here where that kick that went in and hit the post. Obviously, it caused a bit of confusion. But then when Madden caught that ball, all he had to do was hold on to it. But the fact that he got absolutely demoralised in goal and that ball actually came loose and it wasn't grounded straight away by any Tigers player and the Titans had to come in and ground the ball, just really sums up where the Tigers are. And it just sums up their poor, very, very poor luck at the moment. And he just failed to do the simplest of tasks. I know it's coming up a bit slacky, but when you really think about it, all you have to do is pick up that ball and ground it. If you have a minute to go and you're up 6 points to 2, you're only just grounding that ball so that you grind out one more set and you win the game. Really, really not that hard. Unfortunately, it just so happened that the Tigers couldn't do that and they dropped the ball and they allowed the Titans to win. But like I said, you know, when you consider all things in the game, you consider that, you know, all the Tigers and the Titans both had to show a lot of resilience in defense. They had to defend their try lines a lot. But look, it wasn't a pretty game. It was definitely pretty boring. It was a pretty boring game because, you know, both these teams who have shown in the past that when they're on an attack, they're on, just couldn't get the job done. So it was very disappointing. But look, like I said, the Titans did enough in that last second to actually win the game. And so they were the ones to get the biscuits at the end. But look, there was just a few things that I wasn't really satisfied with. One of them being Kevin Proctor. You know, he played 76 minutes. First time he started this year, considering he's been coming off the bench. And he only made 4 runs. And I don't really think that's good enough. We'll get to Josh Jackson a bit later, only making 6 or 7 runs in an 80-minute performance. You know, these are players who are experienced, who should be demanding the ball a bit more, looking to get involved more. But to only come up with 4 runs in 76 minutes is in like 30-odd meters is not really good enough from Kevin Proctor. And I think that these bigger men and these more experienced campaigners should be doing a lot more for their side. In a game that wasn't really much of a standout, you know, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui continues to lead by example with 12 runs, 133 meters, 77 post-contact meters, and 34 tackles. I know that Jermaine Asako played his first game for the club as well, and it was a little bit scratchy at times. But look, I'm sure he will, with more training, he'll grow into that role. Should he need to cover Jaden Campbell any longer than he needs to. But look, yeah, hands down, maybe worst game of the year, Titans versus Tigers in round 4. The Sharks 18 defeated the Knights 0 in a very good game from the Sharks. I thought that they controlled the game really well and they were really efficient in defense, keeping Knights to 0. The Knights have come out, obviously, this year with a lot more intent and have been a bit of a surprise packet for a lot of teams and definitely had an effect on the competition thus far. But this was the first game where the Knights really didn't seem to have the flow going as they've had in the last 3 weeks. You know, they seem to have rushed a lot of their plays, and when they finally got some ball in some good field position, they seem to rush a lot of their plays. They lacked a bit of patience as well. And they obviously were very poor in defense. They missed 45 tackles as well. And Callum Ponga's first game back was very poor as well. Didn't really get involved. Didn't really do much to really lift the side. And I really thought that was disappointing from Callum Ponga. Considering he's being talked about so much to earn such a massive contract extension from the Knights or potentially go to the Dolphins, I just didn't think he was good enough. Now, what doesn't help the Newcastle Knights as well is that during that game, they did lose Tyson Frizzell to that hamstring injury. Now, considering that they've lost Mitch Barnett already, Lachlan Fitzgibbon, and no David Clemmer, and now potentially losing Tyson Frizzell, it does make things very tough, for the Knights in their back row stocks. And they look pretty depleted. But look, in this game, and apart from Jacob Saifidi, no Knights forward ran over 100 metres either. So there was never really that intent to really get off their line and to really make a difference in that game. So that's where the Knights really struggled. But for the Sharks, look, as I said, I thought they played really well. They were so resilient in defence, which was really good to see. That they've really bought into what Fitzgibbon's trying to do there, especially defensively. But look, to say Eden Tolman notch up 300 games was unreal, and that try he scored was even better. But I love just what the work ethic that Tolman's had in his whole career. The professionalism he got when he was at the Storm, and then carrying it over to the Bulldogs, where he was so consistent over many years, and then moving over to the Cronulla Sharks. And so I just thought that he was really good in that game as well. And I thought he led by example, and he just continues to get the job done for the Sharks there. And to notch 300 games is a massive feat, so congratulations to him. And this was the first time that the Sharks have held aside the opposition scoreless since 2016. So that was really good to see from the Sharks as they continue to build as the season goes on. CSC for Talakai was the man for me that really stood out. I had a monster game. 21 runs, 233 metres, 57 post-contact metres, a try, line break assist, 17 tackle breaks, 2 offloads and 10 tackles. He was an absolute pain for the opposition to try to get him down. I know Gagai in this week he came out, was wearing a microphone during the game, and you can see the amount of times Talakai, got past him just because of how strong he is and just how dominant he was. So he had a phenomenal game. And definitely he was the pick for me this week. But under the development so far for the Sharks, I'm really loving what William Kennedy is bringing to the side at fullback. I really think he's brought his game to another level, and it's really good to see. And I thought Matt Moylan, again, played a bit of a starring role there as well. So, the Sharks are continually improving, and they're becoming a side that slowly we're looking to see as a potential genuine threat to the competition. The Panthers 26 defeated the Rabbitohs 12. Look, I thought this game was very entertaining in the first half especially. Both teams were right out there. They were playing their best footy. The Panthers had to tidy up in defence as well, and obviously got the better of the Bunnies in the second half. But look, for the Rabbitohs, they completed 65% and made 14 errors. They continued to turn the ball over as well, which was really poor to see. And it really didn't help them come up against the Penrith side, who usually nail most of their opportunities. But Nathan Cleary comes in, and when he comes in, the amazing part about that is when he comes in, it's amazing just what he can do to the side in controlling that team around the park and making some smart decisions in attack as well. So he came in very seamless. The return of Liam Martin and James Fisher-Harris was very good for them as well, and a massive boost. Look, the Panthers, however, did miss 40 tackles, so they need to clean up their defense in that regard. And it wasn't a perfect performance by any means, but it was a solid performance and did enough for them to continue to remain undefeated this year. And I like what Dylan Edwards has done this year. He's, again, another fullback who's really brought the game to another level, and he's playing some unbelievable footy with that try saver towards the end of the game as well. Just that commitment in defence and that commitment to ensuring that they stay on top in every aspect of their game. It's good to see how the Panthers haven't dropped that standard at all, and they're looking to continue that for the rest of the year and potentially have a hold on the competition as well. For me, Isaiah Yeo, again, another standout. Just every week he's just getting better and better. 19 runs, 172 metres, a tackle break, offload, and 40 tackles. And Tom Burgess, was the highlight for me for the Rabbitohs outfit. 12 runs, 145 metres, a tackle break, 2 offloads, and 33 tackles. I had to do a bit more this week than previous weeks after losing Mark Nichols to a syndesmosis injury early on in that game as well. So, look, the Rabbitohs, they're showing aspects that they're getting better, but the main problem I have is their edge defence at the moment. I've been speaking to a few Rabbitohs fans about this. The defensive side, I believe, which is on, forgive me, from the left-hand side of Tane Milne and Jackson Paulo is really poor. Jackson Paulo can't seem to read the game in attack or defence, and Tane Milne, I find that he's a bit slow, or he loves to chomp in the play and come in off his line very quickly, which causes Paula to have no choice but to do the same thing. When he gets the tackle right, he gets it right, but it's on too many occasions he's getting it wrong, and he's leaking a lot of points on that edge. So what I don't understand is how you've got someone like Josh Mansell, a former international State of Origin winger, very experienced, and he's playing New South Wales Cup, where you can get him as a straight swap for Paulo, who still needs some time to read the game and adjust. Yeah, if you look as well, it wasn't long ago that Jackson Paulo was actually playing on the wing, started in the centres and got moved to the wing as well. So they switched between him and Milne, but their communication on that edge is shocking. So they aren't getting much done in attack there, but they're also doing a lot in defence, more on the negative side, to be quite honest with you. So look, the Rabbitohs need to fix that up. They've got some kids coming through. They've got a good kid in Jacob Gagai coming through, who should potentially earn his opportunity sometime soon. But things need to change for the Rabbitohs, especially on that left-hand side. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from Lachlan Ilias. I know he's going to take some time to get better, but I'm enjoying from what I've seen thus far, and I'm looking to hopefully see a bit more growth out of him as the year goes on. The Warriors 20 defeated the Broncos 6, and look, the Warriors, the return of Sean Johnson was much needed for them. They came in and they really took control of that first half, especially. Now, just somehow they did enough in that first half to hold them off the rest of the game. But look, the Warriors were completing at 80% in their completion rate. They were very dominant. They had certain players dominating at certain points. I thought Marcelo Montoya, when he put that massive hit on Katoni Staggs, which made him drop the ball and then score in the next set, I thought that was a monster play for Montoya. This is probably the best game I've seen him play in a very long time across his career from the Bulldogs and the Warriors. I'm starting to see what Montoya is capable of in that side. Now, for the Broncos, I thought they were really horrible. I thought if any game you'd win, it'd probably be this game. And I thought they were very poor. Losing Albert Kelly and Patrick Carrigan to injuries didn't help, but also having Thomas Flegler getting put on report 4 times. Look, I think it was ridiculous. I don't think he deserved to be on report all 4 occasions. Maybe 1, if 2, but to be put on report 4 times, to be sin-binned as well in his first game back from suspension, didn't really help either. So he'll be missing again for the next few weeks. But look, the Broncos, like the Knights, were very impatient as well. I thought at times where they could have held the ball to put more pressure on the Warriors, they didn't, and they tried to make something out of nothing in the first 2 tackles. Excuse me. So I thought that was really poor from them. They also made 15 errors, which obviously doesn't help as well. Katoni Staggs hasn't been having a great start to the season. I feel like he is not getting involved at all, and it's all coming down the side of Farnworth, who's obviously taking a lot more runs and getting more involved. So the Broncos need to find a way to get the ball to Staggs, because get him early ball, and we've seen what he can do. We saw him a couple of years ago in that try, that he scored in Suncorp Stadium, when he pumped off Ewan Aitken and he pumped a few players and ran the whole field and scored. He's that type of player to break out and to create those big plays for the Broncos. So they need to get a lot more ball out to him as well as Farnworth, because they're both damaging players. But at the moment, Staggs, I wouldn't say he seems disinterested, but I just don't think he is confident enough to think he can get back to his best. He's had obviously a very injury-riddled year and a bit. So it's going to take some time for him to obviously get back into that groove. But the Broncos are really lacking what he brings in attack, and so he needs to start doing that as well. I thought the forwards were very good from both sides. I thought Fanua Blake and Matt Lodge really set the platform for the Warriors. Fanua Blake, 18 runs, 196 metres, 98 post-contact metres, a tackle break and 20 tackles, while Matt Lodge, in the game against the club, his old club, 18 runs, 175 metres, 79 post-contact metres, 5 tackle breaks and 26 tackles. They're both very impressive, and both laid the platform for the Warriors to take control of that game and have that one. For Payne Haas, I thought, again, just the stock standard for Payne Haas. Just a very good performance from him. 19 runs, 176 metres, 91 post-contact metres, 6 tackle breaks, 2 offloads and 45 tackles. Again, his work ethic is nuts. Patrick Carrigan is going to be a huge loss for them, missing for 4 to 6 weeks with that knee injury. He's going to be a massive loss for them, because it doesn't seem like any other forward is going to be stepping it up. On top of that, losing Thomas Flegler for another few weeks to injury. Corey Jensen needs to do more. Ryan James needs to do more. Kenny Palacine needs to do more. So there's a lot of players that really need to step up. And with Payne Haas's potential 2-game suspension for that incident with Albert Kelly, Broncos definitely need players to come about and really lift. So It will be an interesting passage over the next few weeks for the Broncos to see how they really handle everything. But there needs to be a bit more support around Adam Reynolds for him to be able to play his game. So they got to do more around for Reynolds. Like Reynolds has to get some stuff in his game worked on, but he needs to have the players around him really step up as well. The Seagulls 25 defeated the Raiders 6. It was a good win for the Seagulls, going back-to-back first time this year, and slowly starting to get that roll on that we saw a lot of last year. They really had that roll on, and once they got grooving, they were sublime in attack. So, look, the Raiders, they were very poor. I'll be honest. I didn't think the Raiders played to the standard that they know that they can play to. They scored that one try in the first half to Jack Whiten, but after that, they just seemed so lost in attack. But what won him the game was Daly Cherry Evans. I thought his kicking game on that was just absolutely insane. You know, the 20-40 and the 40-20. And then he also set up a few tries with Tom Trbojevic and Garrick and others, and then he kicked that field goal as well. So he was playing the game of his life. When you're on, you're on. And DCE was definitely on Saturday night. So it was really good to, in times where Raiders applied a lot of pressure, Cherry Evans would come in and kick him out of that danger zone and get 20-40 and a 40-20 as well, which led to a few good plays and some tries and a field goal. So he actually stepped it up for me, and he was great. And like the Knights, like I mentioned before, no Raiders except Joe Tarpanay ran over 100 metres. You can't rely on just one or two forwards to get that, take that responsibility. Every forward has to go about and really lay the platform to allow their team to gain field position for them to go and score tries. So, look, the Raiders need to be better in every aspect. I'm not liking what they're doing with the Starling and Frawley switcheroo. I think Starling's an 80-minute player, and I think Frawley's just a bit of a waste to have in that side. So, sure, I don't know what he's trying to do there, but I really think Tom Starling is more of an 80-minute hooker. So, we'll just see how they go about handle that. I thought Josh Oloye was huge in his first game back. 19 runs, 195 metres, 81 post-contact metres, 2 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and 14 tackles. And a monster performance from him. And I thought Tom Trbojevic, running at 289 metres, he had a line break assist, try. He was starting to get a bit more involved. Unfortunately, he's gone down with an knee injury, which will be missing for the next 4 to 6 weeks, so they will miss that. And Tola Talkula played his second game for the Eagles in the centres. I thought he was fantastic. I thought everyone he took was massive. I thought, the try he set up in the corner for... I believe, I'm just trying to get that blacked out. I think it was Garrick or Saab, but I believe it was Saab. But that try I set up him in the corner was deadly. He's got that ability to break the line, and although he's very young, there's massive reps on the kid, so he played fantastic, which was really good to see. The Roosters 28 defeated the Cowboys 4, and it's very hard to see the Roosters playing poorly back to back. They were on another level on Saturday night. They really clicked. And they played simple and effective football that really, really hurt the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys were shocking. It just seems that they play well away from home, but then when they come to home, they just play terrible. They yet to make North Queensland, their country-based stadium, kind of a fortress like the other teams have. But to be fair as well, they played 50 minutes of the game with 12 men, as they had 3 sin bins as well. So they got to clean up. They've got to clean that up in their game. They need to be better in that aspect. But look, playing 50 minutes with 12 men against a very classy Roosters outfit is very tough to do. But look, Roosters will take a lot of confidence from that, and they'll be looking to put some consistent performances together and try to keep consistent through season 2022. Now, JWH and Victor Radley were standouts for me. For JWH, 18 runs, 184 metres, 62 post-contact metres, a tackle break, and 15 tackles. While Victor Radley, 19 runs, 163 metres, 67 post-contact metres. We had a try, 2 line breaks, 4 tackle breaks, and offload, and 37 tackles. So, big return from both of those men to really step up and get the job done against the Cowboys. And this was a much needed win for the Roosters as they look to continue to build their season. For the Cowboys, simply going back to the drawing board to fix up on those poor areas and really try to get it right and bounce back for their next game. Storm 44 defeated the Bulldogs. Absolutely demoralised them. And the Storm, just unbelievable. With the game that they lost the week before against Parramatta, you just knew that they were going to come out absolutely firing. They had a bit of a slow start. The Bulldogs were attacking their line for about the first 20 to 25 minutes. And, of course, because Bulldogs' attack is not really all there, like it has been all there all year, they couldn't capitalise on a lot of the opportunities that they had. Now, with the Storm, it just seemed that every opportunity they took was led to a try. Every time they got to the end of the field, the Dogs' end of the field, they went and scored a try every single time. And they were resilient in defence. So to be able to hold off the Bulldogs on many sets in the beginning really set the platform for them to go and just put on their attacking raid. Pappenhausen, 4 tries, unbelievable. But look, onto the Bulldogs, they were pathetic. If you're going to be attacking their line for 20 to 25 minutes, you need to get results. You need to get points. For them to not get any points out of that 20 to 25 minute period was really poor. And it showed throughout the rest of the game. You know, when you look at stats from the game, you know, the Bulldogs only missed 27 tackles to the Storm 20. We had more possession than them. They completed 2 more sets than we did. So when you look at the stats, it seemed like a very even game, but it just, the Storm took the opportunities when it mattered the most. You know, the Dogs made a lot of errors. They were very poor in attack, and they were also very poor in defense as well, which, again, it just seemed like when the Bulldogs started to work towards something good, and then they just get thrown straight back into square one and kind of panic. So it was really poor from the Bulldogs. They have to turn it around, and they have to turn it around fast. They're coming up against the champs this week, so they've got a lot of work to do, the Bulldogs, and until they get their attack right and figure out what they want to do, they'll figure out exactly what needs to happen. Then they'll be able to be a threat amongst the other competition. So Ryan Pappenhausen, like I said, 15 runs, 188 metres. He scored 4 tries, had 28 points by himself, kicked 6 from 8 goals, had a try assist, 3 line breaks, a line break assist, 3 tackle breaks, and an offload as well to go with that, and made 8 tackles as well. So a very complete performance from Pappenhausen. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him, and I'm loving the fact that he is now playing the sort of football we saw from him earlier last year before Magic Round, where he was hit high by Tyrell Fumaono, and it really affected the rest of the year. So it's good to see that confidence is back in him, and it's really good to see him playing the free-flowing game of football that he usually plays, which is hopefully gets him a potential spot for State of Origin this year. The last game of the round, the Eels 48 defeated the Dragons 14. It was quite the game from the Eels. It was amazing. I've got to say, it was an amazing game to watch. They blew the Dragons out of the park. I've been very cautious of the Eels in the last few weeks, missing 50 tackles and then again 50 tackles and 49 tackles. They missed a lot of tackles in the first 3 weeks, but they've cleaned that up and missed 20 tackles this game. So it was really good to see that Eels clean that area up in defence, and they completed at 88%, which was massive for them. For the Dragons, they were really, really disappointing. You know, Anthony Griffin's change to have Moses Mbai play fullback over Tyrell Sloan may just be one of the dumbest decisions I've seen. While I understand that it's kind of helping Sloan's development, you can't put someone like Mbai at fullback. The guy is not a fullback. He couldn't play it at the Dogs to save his life. Couldn't even do it at the Tigers. He's good at utility. He's good for 15, 20 minutes. But you can't put him in a spot for 80 minutes because a lot of those tries that Eagles scored, he was found out in defence almost every single try. So very poor move there. But they were just disappointing. They couldn't hold the ball, and they just allowed the Eels to run wide over them. But I want to talk about the power halves for a bit, and I'm loving what I'm seeing from both of them. You know, Moses in his kicking game has been fantastic in the first month of footy, especially this game. I thought some of the kicks he put in really applied a lot of pressure to the Dragons. That kick he put in for himself to score that try was a really, really smart play because he noticed that the fullback wasn't there. But look, Dylan Brown has been playing some wonderful football as well. Really loving what I'm seeing from Dylan Brown. As I was watching him play, you see that confidence is back for him. You see that he's playing just a natural game of football, and he doesn't seem that he's affected by anything going on that's kind of distracting him, which is really good to see because we're starting to see the potential that Dylan Brown has and the reasons why Power want to keep him and why they signed him for that massive deal when they did. So it's really good to see that from him. It's good to see that he's playing a better style of football. And the halves are working really well together. And with the forward pack that they have, look, like I said, they are just laying that platform down for the other men. So, look, I thought, you know, there were a few standouts in the game for me. You know, that Mitch Moses try was fantastic, his kicking game. That flick pass that Bryce Cartwright did for Mitch Moses to score in the corner was absolutely nuts. That was so good. And I just watched that and I was in awe, and I'm just so confused as to why he was dropped for this week. But again, it's stock standard Parramatta. But look, Dylan Brown, look, he had 18 runs. He made 162 metres. He scored a try, had 2 line break assist, and a try assist. Had 5 tackle breaks, and had 2 offloads as well. But look, Mitch Moses, you know, he scored 24 of those points. He kicked 8 from 8, so he was perfect on the boot. and two of those were tries that he scored as well. But look, they're just playing a style of footy at the moment where it's enjoyable to watch. And if you don't get on top of it early, they will punish you. And that's what happened to the Dragons this week. Look, that's all we have for all the talking points for round 4. Now, moving over to Supercoach. Now, I scored 1,205 this week. Did copper battering in 4 of my 5 leagues again. I had a wedding on Sunday, so I forgot to change my captain from Harry Grant to Ryan Papenhuyzen, and that really screwed me over. But this week, I've had to make a change. I've traded Ethan Bullimore because it was an absolute waste of a buy to bring him in. Traded him in for Taylor May, who's expected to go up about $100,000 to $150,000. He's got a break even of minus 129, so his break even will, with that being in play and him playing his 3rd game this week, and especially coming up against the Bulldogs, big chance that he can get another 100 or so. So it's a very juicy trade to do. But that's the only trade I'm going with so far. There's a couple of doubts I have at the moment. Adam Fanua-Blake might be in doubt for tomorrow's game, which we'll get to a bit later. And with Payne Haas being suspended for 2 games, which we'll also get to shortly, that could really stuff up my my forward rotation. So I'm going to have to see what happens. Max King and Josh King are playing pretty well, but they're not putting up the numbers that Fanua-Blake and Payne Haas are putting up for me. So a little bit cautious what's happening in my forwards at the moment, but we'll definitely keep you posted on how my team goes for this week. Hopefully I get the right captain choice. For vice captain, I'm thinking I'm going to go Papenhuyzen with Storm playing in the Raiders. And then for my captain, I'm most likely going to go Nathan Cleary. I mean, if there's a time where he's going to shine, it'll probably be against the Dogs. So I'm looking forward to hopefully mixed feelings because I want Dogs to win, but obviously having Cleary as my captain might also ease the pain a little bit. News around the NRL world. Tristan Sailor has been found not guilty of his rape charge. There's a potential chance he may go to Dolphins, but there's nothing confirmed at this stage. Mitch Barnett was rumoured to ask for a release to sign a 3-year deal with the Warriors at the end of the season. Now, the Knights have come back out and have rejected that, and they've got plans for him to remain at the club for the next few years. The Storm have officially confirmed the signatures and the re-signings of Harry Grant till 2025 and Jerome Hughes and Xavier Coates to the end of 2026 as well, putting him to long-term big deals. Matt Lodge has rejected a contract extension with the Warriors and wants to move back to Sydney. No clubs are keen at this stage, but that could change shortly. The Dolphins are getting a documentary filmed about their inception and coming into the NRL, and that'll be filmed by Stan Sports, so that'll be one to watch out for. Payne Haas and Albert Kelly are being investigated for an off-field incident. They were recorded sort of getting to a bit of a push and shove outside of a club in Sydney when they had beaten the Bulldogs. Now they're looking at suspensions and fines, so looking at 1 to 2 game suspensions each. Doesn't really help for Payne Haas because he's already in trouble with the New South Wales Police last year for abusing that officer. And Albert Kelly, he's had a lot of off-field incidents when he was a lot younger, and it just seemed that you'd think, being 30s now, he'd clean up his game a little bit and clean up his image, but obviously that hasn't seemed to happen. Jeremiah Nano has re-signed to the end of 2023, so all the clubs that were really keen on him would wait another year to pitch in their offers. Tom Chester has been promoted to the top 30 for the Cowboys and signed a 2-year deal as well. So he's a hooker coming through the ranks. He can play fullback in the halves, lock at hooker, so very good utility. The Kiwis will come up against Tonga, which could be potentially announced next week, and that'll be taking place on the weekend of June 25th, I believe, which is the State of Origin Game 2 weekend. So that'd be interesting. Now, the Storm, they've offered Cameron Munster a 3-year, $2.25 million deal. So while we initially thought there was a 2-year, $1.6 million, which is $800,000 a year, they've offered him $750,000 a year for 3 years. The Dolphins will table a 3-year, $3 million deal, while I'm hearing the Bulldogs are also keen to try to bring Munster over to the club. That will absolutely not happen. He'll probably go to the Dolphins, but it's cute that the Bulldogs are trying to do something about it. Jack Bird to re-sign on a 2-year, $1 million deal with the Saints. I believe he's got a deadline on Friday to get that organised. So Bird will be keen to put pen to paper, and it's still a bit of a pay decrease, but no, the club has shown interest and he's not looking to go to Dolphins. So he'll be looking to stay put at the Dragons. Shane and Kyle Flanagan have been chased by Leeds Rhinos in the English Super League to take over as coach and as halfback. Shane has denied those rumours and has said they're not going anywhere. And Kyle's committed to staying at the Bulldogs to the end of his contract. Now, taking a look here, that's all we have here listed on our end in terms of the signing news around the NRL world. Now, going over to round 5, all the games coming up this week. The Knights will come up against the Eagles. The Knights are 1-17 from last week, but do check late mail because Tyson Frizzell could potentially be out with Joa Momoisia potentially coming into that starting side and then bringing one of the young kids off the bench. For the Seagulls, initially it was Tolutau Kula was named at fullback to replace Tom Trebojevic, which is out for 4 to 6 weeks, with Christian Tuipulotu to make his debut. But the change that's been coming through now is that Kula is actually out of the squad with a niggling groin injury. So Ruben Garrick will start at fullback and Christian Tuipulotu will start on the wing. And Brad Parker will come back into the centres for this game. I'm going to go the Knights at home. I think they'll bounce back this week from the poor performance they had last week, and they should be able to get the job done this week. The Warriors come up against the Cowboys. For the Warriors, Bunty Afoa will take the spot of Adafenua Blake, who's injured at the moment. We'll be given to game day to sort that out. Jess Tavanga and Ben Marok-Masila are out due to suspension and ankle injury. With Bailey Sinan starting in the second row, Cohen moving to lock, and Aaron Penne and Jack Murchie joining the bench. For the Cowboys, Scott Drinkwater will play his first game of the year and take the spot of Hamso Tabuai-Fidow, who's done his knee. He'll be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And Jermaine Tunua-Brown comes back to the starting side, pushing Ruben Cotter to the bench. I think we're going to go to Cowboys this game. I think with the Warriors losing Adafenua Blake, potentially, will really hurt the side. And I think the Cowboys will bounce back and they can get the job done over the Warriors. Broncos come up against the Roosters. Billy Walters takes the spot of Albert Kelly, who's out for the next 3 to 5 months with a Lisfranc injury. Kenan Palasia will start for Tom Fegler, who's out suspended for the next 3 weeks. And Kobe Hetherington will start at lock for Patrick Carrigan, who's out with a PCL injury for 4 to 6 weeks. While Jordan Reeking and Kurt Kepper will return from injury, with Corey Pay and Corey Jensen joining the bench there. The Roosters will be 1 to 17. I'm going to go the Roosters this game, and I think they're going to make it a lot tougher for the Broncos. I'm expecting Roosters to win that by 12 points. Raiders come up against the Storm. The Raiders and Storm, both teams are 1 to 17, and I'm going to go the Storm to win this one and win that one comfortably as well. The Rabbitohs come up against the Dragons. Josh Mansell will take the spot of Jackson Paulo, who's out with a HIA. Who's out without concussion, and Tom Burgess will move to the starting side for Mark Nichols, who's out for the next 6 to 8 weeks with an ankle syndesmosis injury, with Davey Mawali and Black Taffy joining the bench, with Saliva Havili moving to the reserves. And for the Dragons, Janis comes back from suspension to replace Jack Kajewski, who's been dropped, and Aaron Woods will start for Blake Laurie, who's been moved to the bench. I'm going to go the Rabbitohs this game. I think they'll be eager to bounce back, and I think they'll be looking to get the job done against the Dragons. Titans will come up against the Eels. The Titans get a massive boost with Bo Firma, Isaac Liu, and Philip Sammy all coming into the side, all recovered from COVID. For Brian Kelly, who's injured, and for Kevin Proctor and Sam Lozoni, who's moved to the bench, and Sam McIntyre will move to the reserves. For the Eels, Sean Lane is back in the side, moving Ryan Madison to the bench, and Mitch Rain will take the spot of Bryce Cartwright. Very, very silly decision there by the Eels. I'm not sure what the motivation is there, considering Cartwright played a pretty solid game against the Dragons. I will go the Eels again. I think the Eels take a lot of confidence from the game against the Dragons and will definitely beat the Titans this week. The Sharks will come up against the Tigers with both teams 1 to 17. I'm going to go Sharks and comfortably for that one. And for the Bulldogs, they come up against the Panthers in the last game of the round. Kyle Flanagan comes back into the starting side with Brendan Raker moving to the bench and Bailey Biondi-Odo dropped. And Panthers will line up 1 to 17. Not going to be stupid here. Panthers will win. I'm going to always back the Bulldogs, but we're looking at Panthers' victory here. And there's 2 things I thought I'd discuss just before we wrap up today. Now, 2 things. One, the selection of Kyle Flanagan. Now, it's been spoken about a lot, and it's something that's really bothered me personally. We've had Kyle Flanagan, performing unbelievably in New South Wales Cup in the first month. Now, the Bulldogs are undefeated in New South Wales Cup, and he'll come into the side this week against the Panthers. My problem with the Bulldogs is this. This is our third halves partnership in 5 games. Burton has gone from being signed to just produce his natural running game to having to control the team, which is something that he cannot do and he wasn't signed for. We trained the center in Jake Averillo into the 7 jersey for the whole preseason, only to drop him after 2 games because he's not a 7. Then we used Brendan Wakeham in for a game and a half, 2 games. Didn't perform well. Out of everyone that was very poor in the Bulldogs game last week, he was the only one that got dropped. My problem is that Trent Barrett will keep dropping and changing his halves. Now, Kyle Flanagan's coming in, who didn't train much with the squad all preseason, only got 30 seconds against the Knights in the trial, when they now come into a game where he hasn't formed many combinations with any of the new players that have come in, against the Panthers, who are undefeated and will be looking to absolutely roast the club. in this performance on coming Sunday. I mean, this is the same Kyle Flanagan that last year he cried in a press conference because the pressure just got him too much. Like, just got him, it just took a lot out of him. And now we're chucking him into the firing line, waiting for him to fail again so that Barrett can sit there and say, oh, well, he hasn't played good enough footy. Trent Barrett is definitely in his last days. I'm starting to think that, well, not starting to think, I've actually known for a while that he's not a good coach. He's at a 20% win rate. He couldn't perform at the Sea Eagles when he had the likes of Cherry Evans and the Trebojevic boys, and the forward pack they had at the time was very good, which is similar to what they've got now. He couldn't perform there. Now with the players that he's got here, he hasn't changed the attacking structures. He's kicked Kyle Flanagan to the curb on many occasions in the last 2 years. And now we're putting it up against the Panthers, and potentially, if he lasts against the Panthers, if the Bulldogs don't get absolutely smashed against the Rabbitohs, and then if anything that goes poor, we're going to change the halves again. The other thing that's insulting for Kyle Flanagan is that they've named Brendan Rakeham on the bench. Rakeham shouldn't be coming off the bench. Either you put him in starting 7 or you put him down in the New South Wales Cup. Because Bailey Beyond the Odo will come in, and it has more of an impact when he's in the 14 jersey than when Rakeham is in the 14 jersey. But he's basically saying to Kyle Flanagan, just remember you're always going to be potentially dropped. You're always going to have someone there that can take your spot. And that's what the pressure and the kind of thing that he really needs. He needs the club to be supporting him. He needs people to be taking care of him, to nurture him. Because at the moment, we're not seeing any of that. The reason that Flanagan's in the side, I believe that Barry's realised that he's in his last days as coach and he needs to change something up. And if he doesn't use the only specialist halfback that's in our squad, which I can't believe it's Kyle Flanagan, but one of the few specialist halfbacks in our squad, he hasn't considered him all year, is now going to put him in against the Panthers. I just think the timing of it is poor. I think Barrett needs to shake it up to win. But Flanagan, I've been saying all year, I've been saying from the beginning of the year, said it last preseason, that the second we sign Burden, Flanagan has to come in and be that dominant half for Matt Burden, so that Matt Burden can play his natural game. I found that really poor from the Dogs, especially because of the chopping and changing that they've done. It bewilders me that we have players who have played so poorly on the weekend. None of them get dropped or new kids come in. We keep the same 17, but we only change the halfback. I don't understand that. So I'm really hoping Kyle Flanagan kills it this week. I'm just not understanding the thought process behind Trent Barrett's decision making, and it's really gonna come back and bite him in the backside. But look, personally, I don't see Barrett lasting the year, and I'm really hoping that we get Shane Flanagan in to come in and to be able to make use of this side and to bring in his own attacking structures, his own coaches, and to really revamp up the place to make the Bulldogs a successful club once again. My other issue, big controversial, but that's what I'm here to do. Kalen Ponga is not worth $1 million. I don't understand how a lot of these clubs are coming out. Like the Newcastle Knights want to re-sign him for $1.2 million a year. The Dolphins want to chuck in $1.1 million. Is there something I'm not seeing? Kalen Ponga is a great player. He's a good player. I want to say great. He's a good player. The guy's injured more than he's on the field. When he's on the field, he doesn't look. He's someone that I look at and think he's $1 million player. He doesn't do enough to convince me to be on the same level as Tom Trebojevic and James Tedesco. There are fullbacks in the game now, such as Dylan Edwards and Will Kennedy, that are playing better than Ponga. Yeah, all right, he missed 2 weeks with a knee injury. But Ponga missed last year. He played 13 games last year. The year before that, played about 17. He hasn't probably gone in and played a full season of rugby league. And the Newcastle Knights are stupid here for putting all these dumb clauses in his contract because they think, oh, well, we can't lose him. He's, we need him in our side or we're going to lose. He's influential to the side. I get that. But he's not worth $1 million. I would not give him more than $500,000. Maybe pushing $600,000. And it's not the fault of Wayne Bennett trying to negotiate with the Knights. With Ponga. It's not the fault of Ponga wanting to talk to Bennett. It's the Newcastle Knights' fault for putting this amount of money into this kid who, while he is a good football player, is not on the elite levels such as your Pappenhausens, your Tedescos, your Trebojevics, and you know what? On his day, even your Latrell Mitchells. I think he's number 5 or 6 in my more fullbacks in the comp. I don't see the big deal about Kalen Ponga. He hasn't churned out a full season in I don't know how long. He's always injured. It's always a knee issue or a groin issue or a hammy issue. And these things aren't getting sorted. I don't know what's happening at Newcastle, but he's not recovering well from these injuries. And last week when he came in and he played against the Sharks, he was completely outplayed by Will Kennedy, and he just didn't seem like he cared to be in the game. I don't see how he's worth $1 million. If someone wants to come and discuss this, please, I'm absolutely open to it. I just don't see the logic behind the Knights and the Dolphins really signing this kid on $1 million a year. He's not worth that kind of money, and he's not that elite player yet. He can get there, but he's not that player yet. And I just think it's ludicrous that all these clubs really want him for $1 million a year. And I don't think he's worth more than $500,000. Well, guys, that's another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Just had to get those two big things off my chest. You know where to find us on all our socials. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Like, follow, share. Let's get sharing this page around again. We've been a little bit dry on doing that. So let's continue to get the word out. And we'll be definitely coming on next week with a brand new guest in a different location. So we get to move out of this and I get a guest on for the first time this year, which will be really exciting. But like I said, you'll find us on all our socials. We're going to be looking at potentially bringing out some more merch. We've got some big things coming up as well that we're going to update you throughout the course of the year. But good luck in your tips this week. Enjoy the footy once again. And we'll be back same time next week to bring you all the latest from round 5. All the best, guys. Enjoy the weekend and enjoy the footy. Take it easy.